cancer, from MS, from post-traumatic stress, from chronic pain, and all the other many varying ailments that this medicine grants benefit to. Current state policy is not compassionate and disgusting, and is not compassionate in regard to our deprived patients. In 1993, I had to witness the killing of my father. My father, who earned the Purple Heart during his duty when drafted to Vietnam, who was pronounced 50% disabled by the military for the injuries he received during the war. He also suffered with post-traumatic stress, chronic pain, intense depression, and coping issues from being a social outcast for his humble beliefs. My father recognized cannabis was an effective medicine during his duty in Vietnam after receiving his injury over there. Because of the way he chose to effectively and safely relieve his ailments, my father remained a great father, a great teacher, and the main provider of our family. But unfortunately, he chose to improve the quality of his life under current state policy, which ultimately resulted in his murder by law enforcement in 1993, August the 8th. What was even more devastating for me as a 4-year-old to experience was to witness this unjust and very traumatic experience. I was forced to understand the fear of losing a life. I attempted to protect my family from the overwhelming amount of law enforcement that was present that day. I ran inside our trailer to my little toy box, grabbed a green sword, ran back outside and wove this sword through our chain link fence gate, thinking I had protected my family from the harm I knew that was outside of those fences. Moments later, my father was murdered with his hands in the air. My mother was shot in the head with a bullet fragment. And I was covered in both of my parents' blood. To the point to where I thought I was shot myself. I was still covered with the blood of both of my parents when police placed me in the back of their cruiser. This was the most horrific and impressionable event which has happened in my life so far. As a result, I have always struggled with appetite. I've severely starved myself as a way to cope with the pain of not having a father, and even as a form of suicide. This was my life from 4 to 6, until I started having more problems in school due to a speech impediment, which drastically took away from the freedoms and experiences other children have the opportunity to receive in school. I was constantly out of class, in speech therapy, or in the principal's office because of an incident related to my speech. I didn't make much improvement with my impediment until high school, and it was in high school where I joined our ROTC program. And to better develop qualities, I should have had the pleasure in learning from my father. These damages of our effective policy are still with me today. For the most part, I still live in the same trailer with the same bullet holes which killed my father. I've constantly dwelled on this event the times when I wasn't isolating myself from the rest of my family. I've experienced how it feels to lose to such strong love a child and his father shares. The pain I went through immediately after his death was unbearable, destructive, and of the highest misery. I knew I couldn't live through that experience again, so I chose not to experience that love. I isolated myself from my family and focused on developing my conscience on my own. As a child, I knew I wouldn't be able to reach adulthood by 18 without the complete raising of my father, and set 23 as a goal. Now I am 23, and I have attended and maintained a good GPA at the University of Kentucky. I have attended Oaksterdam University and graduated as a valedictorian of the first cannabis university. And now, I am identifying with my father. Cannabis is medicine. Kentucky should embrace its heritage and end this senseless prohibition of cannabis as a medicine. The history my family has had with our policies concerning cannabis, plus how I am now speaking out similar to how my father did before his murder, has created more anxiety, more post-traumatic stress, and more complications for my family, due to the fear associated with the great risk our current policy poses. Now is the time for Kentucky to grant our patients safe access to this beneficial medicine and change our current life-shattering policy. Cannabis prohibition was founded on greed, deceit, and racism, values we cannot accept and certainly cannot continue to deprive our patients medicine because of. During a time when doctors freely prescribed cannabis, the prohibitionists of that era, of the Reefer Madness era, used an unfamiliar Mexican term with haunting claims, strong enough to ensure fear among the public. And none of these claims were supported by any scientific studies. It was this immoral Reefer Madness movement which made our state outlaw cannabis and then the country. Congress passed the Marijuana Tax Act in 1937, which eventually forced our doctors from prescribing and using cannabis extract. 40 years later, this act was found unconstitutional. However, Congress responded with a scheduling hoax known as the Controlled Substance Act of 1970. When the CSA was in development, President Nixon appointed a National Commission on Marijuana and Drug Abuse to conduct scientific research for the Controlled Substance Act concerning cannabis. This panel introduced a report to Congress called Marijuana, a Signal of Misunderstanding, which favored ending cannabis prohibition and adopting other methods to discourage use. The report's scientific findings opposed the president and past prohibitionist mistruths placed on this valuable medicine. Unpleased with his own commission's findings, Nixon threw away the report and started this unjust, life-shattering, ineffective war on cannabis. In states which support legal access to medicinal cannabis for post-traumatic stress, for instance, such as New Mexico, the rate of suicides among our respected veterans has decreased. Our pastime of fear and taboo deserves to be over. We have thousands of patients whose quality of life suffers each and every day. Our state does not grant them legal access to this safe and beneficial, effective medicine. The passage of the Gatewood-Galbraith Medical Marijuana Act of 2013 should be a priority for everyone in the state of Kentucky. The supporting research is current and vast. More than 60 national and international health organizations support legalizing marijuana for the medical purposes. There are over 20,000 scientific studies available concerning cannabis and its cannabinoids, which are only found in cannabis. A new review in the Open Neurology Journal, the most recent government review that I'm aware of, states, based on evidence currently available, the Schedule 1 classification is not tenable. It is not accurate that cannabis has no medical value or that information on safety is lacking. Cannabis more closely resembles drugs in Schedule 3. This review calls for reclassification similar to how Senator Clark's Gatewood-Galbraith Medical Marijuana Memorial Act does. I hope you can see the support for medical cannabis is vast and for just reasons. We do not need more research. We do welcome it. Specifically more pertaining to the effective treatments for the major issues we face here in Kentucky, such as the use of cannabis as an exit drug for our prescription abuse and in other drug-related treatment applications. Medical cannabis should hit home with everyone. We all know someone who could benefit from this medicine, and if we don't, we should know that it is wrong for us to deny our patients this freedom and quality of life. Why should our patients be forced to choose a path of treatment which will kill their healthy cells, induce damage to other organs, and dull their personality with the many side effects of current prescriptions? We must grant patients the legal access to a medicine science and patients show us is therapeutic, protective, and safe. It is because of our illogical current policy I am even qualified to be a medical cannabis patient. The post-traumatic stress, depression, insomnia, and general anxiety is still present and intensifies when our ineffective and tax-wasting pot helicopters rattle our trailer, just as they did on the day I witnessed my father's murder. I do not want to have to use marijuana as a medicine. I need to for the quality of my life. We must not be ignorant to the many beneficial medicinal properties that science supports. How can we keep depriving those in need, those wishing to spend 10 or more years with their loved ones, and those wanting those extended years to be of a higher quality than the misery they're unfortunately used to? The time is now for us to grant our patients this beneficial medicine and to change our current damaging policy. Acknowledge the need for Kentucky to grant legal, safe access to this effective medicine and to stop depriving our patients an improved quality of life. Please support the Gatewood-Galbraith Medical Marijuana Act of 2013.